The day the news broke that the new general manager had arrived, the entire office buzzed with excitement and gossip. "It's rare for us to get such a young manager," someone commented. "Just look at the photo. He's really handsome," another chimed in. Claire, from the desk next to mine, leaned over to peek at the introduction photo of the new manager, Ethan Sullivan, on the internal company site. "He's not even 30 yet. Do you think he's married?" "He was," I said, closing the page. "But they got divorced. He has a girlfriend now, might be getting married soon, or maybe he's already remarried." Claire stared at me, stunned. "How do you know all this?" I just smiled and shook my head. "Just a guess. He looks like the type." But the truth was, I wasn't guessing at all, because Ethan Sullivan was my ex-husband. Ethan and I were practically the model of a devoted couple. We had both gone to the same teacher's university. He was a year ahead of me, technically my upperclassman. Some people just naturally stand out no matter where they go, and Ethan was one of them. You couldn't help but notice him. I was the one who fell for him first, though there were plenty of other girls who liked him too. Back then, I didn't have much confidence. I admired him quietly, treating him like an unattainable idol. I never dared confess my feelings. I was afraid of being rejected, and even more afraid that we couldn't even be friends afterward. Then came that summer break, when we went to a remote mountain village to teach as volunteers. The living conditions were rough. One rainy night, the roof in my room started leaking. The supervising teacher moved me to an empty classroom to wait while repairs were done. When I got there, I saw someone was already inside. It was Ethan. He had probably also been brought there temporarily to escape the rain. For some reason, maybe exhaustion, he had fallen asleep, head down on one of the small desks. I quietly pulled out the chair next to him and sat down. Watching him sleep, my heart raced. The classroom lights were off and the sound of rain poured outside. I don't know what got into me, maybe the darkness, maybe the moment, but a bold idea took hold. I slowly leaned in toward him. Our faces were just inches apart, my nose nearly brushing his. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder split the air outside, and I snapped out of it, jolted awake by the noise. I cursed myself for letting feelings cloud my judgment. I was just about to pull back when a strong hand pressed down on my head, holding me in place. Ethan opened his eyes slowly and looked at me with calm curiosity. "Emily," he said softly, "what were you just trying to do?" "I didn't mean to. I wasn't going to do anything," I stammered. My face flushed red with embarrassment as I tried to wriggle away, but he didn't let go. Instead, he looked at me with a smile playing in his eyes, and then, all of a sudden, he kissed me. I froze, completely stunned. I even forgot to resist. It was such a soft, feather-light kiss, but it told me everything I needed to know. That's how Ethan and I got together. He was a great boyfriend. We were together for 3 years throughout college. After graduation, we planned to stay and live in the same city where our university was. But then, he unexpectedly received an offer from a prestigious company in his hometown, his dream job. Ethan never really wanted to be a teacher. This was the opportunity he had always hoped for. After thinking it over for a long time, he took my hand and asked if I would go back with him. His hometown was far from mine. There were no direct high-speed trains, and it took over 20 hours by regular train to get there. My parents were strongly against it. My dad fought with me several times over it. My mom called and pleaded with me, "Sweetheart, we don't want you to marry so far away. No one from our family is over there. What if they mistreat you? Who will stand up for you? You won't even have a place to turn to." But I was too in love with Ethan to listen to anyone. I told my mom, Ethan would never treat me badly. But in the end, the one who hurt me the most was him. Looking back, it was like I'd been blinded by love. Even when my dad told me, "If you choose to marry into that family, then don't come back to this one," I still didn't hesitate. After graduation, I packed up and followed Ethan to his hometown. The night I arrived, it was snowing. Ethan came to pick me up at the train station. Wearing my thick down coat, I ran straight into Ethan's arms. My eyes were red as I looked up at him and said, "I'm here." His eyes turned red too. He held my face and kissed me clumsily, over and over. That night, I curled up in his arms. I told him my parents were furious. My father had said that if I chose to leave, he'd cut ties with me. "You're all I have now," I whispered. Ethan hugged me tightly. "Emily, Let's get married, he said. I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. So I married Ethan Sullivan. After we got married, I started working as an English teacher at an elementary school, while Ethan joined a company. In the beginning, things really were sweet and happy. Just like any newlywed couple, we cooked together, watched movies, did chores side by side. My dad was still angry with me. He didn't even attend our wedding. I was sad, but back then, I was completely immersed in the bliss of our new life. Without realizing it, I started to overlook a lot of things. I kept telling myself that once we had a long holiday, we'd go back home, and Ethan could talk to my dad properly. If he sincerely promised to take care of me, my dad would surely forgive us. But Ethan only got busier. Not only did he stay late at work on weeknights, he often had to work overtime on weekends and holidays too. I felt sorry for him and told him not to push himself so hard. But he just smiled at me and said he had to give it his all. I want to prove to your dad that he wasn't wrong about you. I want to give you a life everyone envies, he told me. Ethan's career took off fast. Within 2 years, he was promoted to department manager. During those 2 years, he drank at countless business dinners. Every time he came home drunk and threw up, I was the one who took care of him. Heart aching. At the celebration dinner for his promotion to general manager, I met Christine for the first time. She had long, wavy hair, perfectly done makeup, and walked up to Ethan with a glass of wine, swaying slightly as she tilted her head and said, "Congratulations." Maybe it was just women's intuition, but I felt a sudden discomfort in my chest. That night after we got home, I asked Ethan, "Who was that?" Still a little drunk, he kissed me lazily and said, "Christine. She's a colleague in my department." I wanted to ask more, but he had already fallen asleep. But Christine wasn't just a regular colleague. She quickly started invading our lives. Late-night texts, unexpected phone calls, the scent of perfume lingering on Ethan's shirts. These became frequent causes of arguments between us. I couldn't stand Christine's blatant provocation anymore. And Ethan's overtime only increased. One night, I waited until 11 p.m., and he still hadn't come home. I took a cab to his office, only to see Christine standing on the steps, her arm linked with Ethan's, adjusting the collar of his coat. "Go on home," she said in a playful tone, her voice tinged with flirtation. "Otherwise, that crazy call barrage will start again." Ethan gave a helpless, bitter smile. "I'll come back once she's asleep." I couldn't hold it in any longer. I stormed up and shoved Ethan aside, then slapped Christine across the face. And what did Ethan say that night? "Emily, you're acting like a lunatic." After that night, things between us turned ice cold. We didn't speak. Then, 2 weeks later, Ethan slid the divorce papers across the table to me. I had never seen him look so indifferent. He told me he had real feelings for Christine. He admitted cheating was wrong, but said when love came, he just couldn't stop himself. I stared at him, repeating his words silently. "Love?" I felt like my whole world was collapsing. "You and she have love?" I asked. "Then what about us?" He stayed silent for a long time, then said just one thing. "Let's get a divorce." I refused. I couldn't accept it. I wasn't willing to give up. Later, Christine came to my school and asked to talk. She looked at me with a smirk of disdain. Only useless women try to tie a man down with marriage. She pulled up a video from her phone. "Does this make you feel powerful? What's the point?" she asked. Then she added, "Miss Emily, what do you think your students would think if they saw how you acted that night? What do you think your school would say?" She let the surveillance footage fall from her phone screen, me that night screaming, slapping her. "Just go ahead and divorce him," Christine said. "Ethan is my man now. We've done everything a couple can do. His heart belongs to me, not you. Why keep making yourself miserable?" "What reason do you even have to stay married?" she asked with a mocking smile. "Because he's rich, because he's successful." She looked at me with outright contempt. "You should know your place. You're just a regular elementary school teacher. I'm the one who deserves someone like him. I've seen how many male teachers work at your school. Wouldn't it be better to find one of them, maybe a divorced guy like you, and live a quiet, average life? You've been out of Ethan's league for a long time." She said a lot that day, and she threatened me with that surveillance video, the one of me slapping her. I didn't say a single word the entire time. Finally, she lost her patience and asked, What do you even want? I said, just one sentence. If you really have what it takes, then get him to divorce me. After that, Ethan stopped coming home. I called him over and over. When he blocked my number, I waited for him in front of his office. I became a wreck. The only thought in my head was, if they won't let me live in peace, then no one gets peace. I printed out everything I'd written, page after page, of personal accounts and accusations, and plastered them on the walls outside his company. I handed them to every person walking in and out of the building. He wanted to ruin me? Fine, I'd ruin him first. He thought I was afraid to lose him. But the truth was, I had already lost everything. The moment I cut ties with my family to be with Ethan, he became my whole world. And yet, he threw me away like I was nothing. Christine underestimated the lengths I would go to protect this marriage. She called me a crazy woman. Her affair with Ethan quickly became the talk of the company, and in an effort to protect their public image, the company fired her. News of the scandal eventually reached Ethan's parents. They were very traditional people, and they were furious when they found out. They called both of us home. Right in front of me, Ethan's father slapped him. His mother said that if Ethan dared to get a divorce, she'd hang herself. In the end, Ethan gave in. He broke things off with Christine and returned to our home. The war between the three of us, me, him, and her, was over. I had won. That night, Ethan and I talked for hours. We reminisced about the past. I flipped through our old photo albums, showing him page after page of memories. By the end, I was crying. Ethan was too. His eyes red, he apologized and pulled me into his arms. Emily, I'm sorry. Let's start over, he said. I couldn't stop the tears. I thought about everything I'd done, what I'd become, and I started reflecting on my actions too. That night, we held each other as we slept. He was trying, and I was doing my best to meet him halfway. For about 2 months after that, things were peaceful. He didn't work late as much. We cooked together again. We watched movies. We talked about our days. We even went back to visit his parents. We were making plans, like him taking time off next month so we could visit my parents together. It felt like everything was finally going back to how it used to be. Until that night. He was in the shower, and his phone kept lighting up on the table. I couldn't resist. I picked it up and answered the call. The name on the screen just said L. The moment I answered, the caller hung up. My curiosity was piqued, and then the messages started coming in, one after another. Ethan, will you still come tomorrow? I miss you so much. I cried for a long time hugging the pillow you slept on. I miss you. I really, really miss you. I hate sleeping alone. It's so hard. Why can't we be together if we love each other? I've thought about this over and over. It's okay if I don't get a title, but please don't leave me. I love you. I truly can't live without you. I'll take the job you found for me. I'll be good. I know you can't divorce her because of your parents. Let's take it slow. We'll get through this together, okay? Every word oozed with sincerity. Every sentence was filled with love. When Ethan came out of the shower, I was still sitting there, phone in hand, stunned silent. He snatched the phone out of my hand and quickly glanced at the screen. Then he said, Emily, you're still in contact with her? I stood up, stunned. You didn't just stay in contact, you helped her get a job, and you slept with her. Calm down, he said. But how could I possibly calm down? My rage tore through every bit of reason I had left. I screamed hysterically. How could you do this to me, Ethan? How could you? You told me we were starting over. Ethan let me yell and vent, but his expression only grew colder. Emily, I told you, I'm not going to divorce you, he said. Christine just hasn't fully accepted the situation yet. I'll handle it in time. These past weeks haven't been easy for me either. Then he added, Stop pressuring me, okay? That night, I had actually meant to talk to him about something important. I was pregnant, but Christine's messages and calls had popped that bubble of joy before it ever had a chance to rise. Worse, it pushed our already fragile relationship back into total silence. A week later, a child at school fell while going down the stairs. His head was covered in blood. I happened to be passing by and didn't even hesitate. I scooped him up and ran straight to the school clinic. That afternoon, I started feeling a dull pain in my lower abdomen. Then came the bleeding. I stayed at school for a while and tried calling Ethan, but he never picked up. The pain became so intense, I nearly passed out. My coworkers, panicking, rushed me to the hospital. The baby couldn't be saved. The doctor told me the fetus had already been unstable, and its development wasn't ideal. In some ways, she said, it might have been a blessing in disguise. Lying there on the cold hospital bed, I called Ethan again. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. Since it was a natural miscarriage, the doctor just gave me medication and told me to go home. Sitting in the back of a taxi, I felt physically sick and emotionally drained. To distract myself, I opened my phone and started scrolling through short videos. Recently, clips of Wang Baochuan picking wild vegetables had gone viral, funny skits based on that old folk tale. The comments were full of jokes about how terrifying blind devotion in love could be. Even the woman driving the taxi overheard the video and chimed in. Girl, what was Wang Baochuan thinking? It's not like there aren't any other men in the world. Her parents suffered for her, and that mountain of hers was cursed too. She lived on wild vegetables for 18 years, ate it all down to the roots. Poor veggies. You think it's easy growing up wild and alone like that? Then she burst into laughter. I laughed too. The driver laughed even harder. Looking at me in the rearview mirror, she kept chatting. Love makes people crazy, doesn't it? Girl, are you okay? I wiped my tears with my hand, but they wouldn't stop. I forced a smile. You're just too funny, I said. You made me laugh so hard I cried. She laughed. You've got tissue on your back. Just grab it yourself, honey. I pulled out a tissue, and as I turned, I caught my reflection in the car window. A messy ponytail, a worn-out face, eyes full of bitterness, puffy, red-rimmed eyes, a face streaked with tears. Was that really me? Was that still the same Emily who had once won first place in the state dance competition? The girl who had sparkled under the spotlight? Was that still the same Emily who always stayed positive, always grew toward the light? Was that still the same Emily who had won the top award in classroom teaching skills, once hailed as a star of the future? Suddenly, I realized the real reason I didn't want a divorce anymore. It wasn't about Ethan. I couldn't let go of everything I had sacrificed for him. All the things I had given up, my pride, my dreams, my family, my self-worth, that was what I clung to. Just like Wang Baochuan, she couldn't give up, not because of love, but because she had already given up too much to walk away. She wanted a conclusion. That's why she held on for 18 years. Luckily, for me, it had only been 6. Only 6 years. When I got back to our apartment complex, I saw them from far away, under the tree, locked in an embrace. Christine's eyes were red with tears. Ethan was gently cupping her face. They kissed like no one was around. Even as I walked closer, they didn't notice me. Christine kissed him while crying and said softly, "You're almost off work. I should go, right?" Ethan didn't say a word. Instead, he pulled Christine into another deep kiss. I stood there, silently watching. My body ached terribly, but strangely, my heart was calm. There was no impulse to slap anyone this time. In fact, I almost laughed at myself. I felt like one of those cliché antagonists in a romance novel, the bitter ex who gets in the way of true love. Their love seemed so tragic, so impossible, all because of me. 6 years ago, Ethan would have looked at me with sparkling eyes after I snuck a kiss while feeding him fruit, gently pressing my head down and whispering in a hushed voice, "But I want to." Now, 6 years later, he was tenderly comforting another woman who had lowered herself completely for him. And he didn't even have a glance left for the woman who had just lost their child. All this time, what had I been clinging to so tightly? Maybe it was that kiss on a rainy night, so sudden and thrilling. Maybe it was the sweetness of a mutual, silent crush. Maybe it was the snowy evening when I gave up everything and ran to him. Maybe it was the way he once said, "Emily, I'll love you for the rest of my life." But now, all those moments, those memories, felt like they'd been drenched in bucket after bucket of hideous red paint. Ugly, irreversible. I looked up. There were no more tears, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe, truly breathe. I finally understood what it meant to let go, to stop loving someone. It really could happen in a single moment. That night I asked Ethan for a divorce. He looked surprised, tugged at his tie, visibly annoyed. "Can you stop with the drama? You were the one who wouldn't divorce no matter what. And now what? Changing your mind again?" He probably thought I was just picking a fight, just making noise. I looked up at him, calm. "You don't want a divorce?" He didn't reply. I pushed through the pain in my body and said, "Are you really okay with keeping her as your secret mistress forever?" That line seemed to finally strike a nerve. He snapped, "Fine, let's do this properly. If you're willing, I'd be thrilled." But there was no warmth in his voice, none. "Just don't come crawling back later," he added coldly. Why would I regret it? I had already regretted far too many things in this life. What was strange, though, was that I always thought Ethan would be the first to run from this marriage. But when I handed him the divorce papers a few days later, he hesitated. He didn't sign right away. "Are you really sure?" he asked, tossing the pen down, clearly irritated. I nodded. Our financial situation was simple. The house and the car were his premarital assets. We had some savings, but not much. I only asked for half of it. There was no reason for him not to sign. Still, it took him 3 full days to finally sign his name. A month later, after sorting out all the formalities, we went to the civil office to finalize the divorce. When the moment finally arrived, Ethan wasn't angry anymore. He kept checking with me over and over. "Are you sure you want to do this? Once we're divorced, we're no longer husband and wife. Are you really sure?" He asked again, and suddenly, I found him a little ridiculous. He probably thought this was some elaborate ploy, me pretending to go along with a divorce to stir things up again, to sabotage his relationship with Christine. He seemed genuinely nervous now that I had agreed to let him go. But I wasn't acting. I didn't love him anymore. I truly wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay for even one more day. The day after the divorce was finalized, I left. That day, it snowed heavily. Ethan called. He said he wanted to take me to the station. "No need," I replied. "I've only got one suitcase, the same one I brought 3 years ago. I can handle it myself." But he still showed up. At the station, I waited to board while he stood silently nearby. His phone kept ringing, but he didn't answer any of the calls. Eventually, he just turned it off. I figured that, as the one who had been cheated on, now that I had agreed to the divorce, Ethan and Christine could finally be together without any obstacles. Maybe he still felt a bit guilty toward me. Maybe him showing up to see me off was just his way of trying to ease that guilt. When it was time to board, I pushed my suitcase forward. Suddenly, he grabbed my arm. I turned around. "Let me know when you get home," he said softly. I shook my head and pulled my arm from his grasp. "Ethan, we're divorced now," I said. "From this day on, let's just act like we never knew each other." With that, I walked away without looking back. Standing on the platform, with snow swirling through the air, everything felt like it had been reset. 3 years ago, I had arrived here with nothing but love and courage, dragging a single suitcase behind me. 3 years later, at the same station, I left behind all my pain and bitterness, and once again I left alone. This time, I was never coming back. When I got home, it was 7 in the morning. But standing outside the door, I hesitated. Back then, I hadn't listened to my parents. I'd been reckless and stubborn. And now I had ended up like this. Maybe I deserved it. How could I show my face again? How could I come crying home, asking for shelter? But just then, the door suddenly opened. My mom stood there in her thick housecoat, probably about to take out the trash. She froze when she saw me. "Emily? Emily." My voice trembled. "Mom. Oh my goodness, why didn't you tell us you were coming?" she said, rushing to pull me inside while yelling toward the back of the house. "Honey, come out quick, Emily's home." "What are you doing here all of a sudden? Wearing such thin clothes too. Look at your hands, so cold. How long were you standing out there? Why didn't you knock?" she fussed, taking the suitcase from me. "Where's Ethan? He didn't come back with you." Just then, my dad came out of the bedroom, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. Tears streamed down my face. "Dad, Mom, I'm divorced." I had thought they'd scold me when they found out. I thought they'd be furious, but neither of them said a word of blame. After I told them everything, my mom's eyes reddened too. She trembled with anger as she cursed Ethan for being heartless, but she still pulled me close. "My baby, it's okay, you're home now. That divorce, good. A man like him didn't deserve you. Emily, listen to me. From now on, we're going to live happy lives. The best is still ahead." I threw myself into her arms and cried my heart out. 3 years of bottled-up pain came crashing out in waves. My dad sat quietly to the side and said nothing. Maybe this was what he had foreseen all those years ago when he tried so hard to stop me. Maybe that's why he had been so firm. That night, I slept in my old room. Nothing had changed. My award certificates and photos still decorated the walls. Mom said she and Dad had kept the room spotless. "Your dad's all bark and no bite," she told me. "Even though he said he'd cut ties with you, he's been polishing your trophies all this time." She sat on the edge of my bed and gently scolded me. "You know, you're just as stubborn as he is. That's why he was so worried you'd get hurt." I nodded, eyes stinging again. "Sleep well, okay?" she said, brushing my hair back. I closed my eyes. She turned off the light and quietly left the room. "Geez, you scared me." My dad's voice came from outside the door. "What are you doing standing out here?" "She asleep?" my mom whispered. "Almost. Cried the whole day. And you didn't think to get her a warm compress?" My dad's voice softened. "Wait till she's asleep. I'll roll a warm egg over her eyes so they won't hurt tomorrow." I turned to my side. The tears came again. But that night, I slept better than I had in a long time. The next morning, I cut off my waist-length hair and dyed it a dark brown. I got a layered perm with soft curls framing my face. The stylist at the salon couldn't help but sigh. "Such beautiful hair, what a shame to cut it off. Do you want to sell it?" I shook my head. "Just throw it away." I used to keep my hair long because Ethan liked it that way. He always said I looked best with straight, jet black hair, and he begged me not to cut or dye it. But now, I only wanted to please myself. I was starting over. My major was elementary English education, but when I checked with the local schools, none of them had openings or hiring plans at the time. Fortunately, a woman next door was preparing to move abroad, and her company urgently needed someone for an English documentation role. She recommended me. That's how I ended up joining the company. It was a private enterprise focused on foreign trade, with multiple branches across the country. I was placed in one of the branch offices. The atmosphere was great, and the co-workers around me were friendly. The company regularly organized team-building events and had even adopted a nearby mountain village school to support, which aligned perfectly with my interests and strengths. In the 3 months I'd been there, I had genuinely enjoyed my time. But then, the general manager fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. After being discharged due to his condition, he stepped down. The company brought in a new GM. I never expected to run into Ethan again so soon. And certainly not as the general manager of my new company. If someone had asked, "What's it like to suddenly work under your cheating ex-husband?" I was probably the most qualified person to answer. But the dramatic exits or satisfying revenge scenes only happen in novels. My parents were both retired now. I couldn't just quit out of pride and expect them to support me. Besides teaching, I had no other professional background. Finding another job would come with uncertainty. At least for now, I needed this job. To be honest, aside from the initial surprise of seeing Ethan here, I didn't feel much. After all, my role had virtually no interaction with upper management. In a company this big, you could easily go months without even bumping into the GM, so I just kept doing my job. Mom, worried I was still stuck in the pain of my failed marriage, had been enthusiastically setting me up on blind dates. To ease her mind, I went to them all. But since she cast the net pretty wide, I sometimes ran into some real oddballs. Still, in its own way, it brought a little entertainment to life. One afternoon during lunch, I was chatting with my coworker, Elena, in the cafeteria. She asked how the recent blind dates were going. I sighed. "Yesterday I met this guy. As soon as he heard I used to be an English teacher, you know what he asked?" "What?" "He said he was thinking of applying for a part-time grad program, and asked if I could tutor him in English for free." Elena couldn't hold it in and sprayed her drink. Just then a group of people happened to walk past our table. One of them paused and muttered, "What kind of people are out there these days?" Elena, still laughing, shook her head. "I just don't get it. Even someone like you got divorced. What was your ex-husband thinking? Seriously, what do men want in a wife nowadays? An actual goddess?" I chuckled, sipping my soup. To each their own. Some people like radishes, some like cabbage. "I get it," Elena said, shaking her head dramatically. "Some people marry perfection and still crave scraps." Suddenly, she fell silent and stiffened. I looked at her, confused, then noticed she was already standing up nervously. "Good afternoon, Mr. Sullivan." I followed her gaze. Our eyes met. Ethan looked surprised, maybe even conflicted. He probably didn't expect to see me there either. Elena yanked my sleeve urgently. Everyone was watching. So I stood too. "Hello, Mr. Sullivan." He paused for a moment. The group around him quickly followed our lead and greeted him with extra enthusiasm, eager to be noticed. Trying to avoid the scene, I nudged Elena, and we quietly carried our trays away toward another side of the cafeteria. After that, I didn't run into Ethan again for a few days. Then came the company's mid-year celebration. Besides the usual performance reviews and awards, each department was required to prepare a performance. Ours had decided long ago that I would do a duet dance with a male colleague who also had a background in dance. With little time and me being out of practice, we adapted one of my old college competition routines into a partnered version. My dance partner had stronger technique, so it made sense. My mom still didn't know Ethan was now my company's GM. When she heard I'd be performing, she got excited and even dug out my old competition costume, a shimmering blue dress. I tried it on. It still fit. "My daughter looks like a fairy descended from heaven," my mom said with awe. On the day of the performance, standing under the stage lights, I actually felt genuinely happy. After graduating college and marrying Ethan, my life had been nothing but work and chores, cooking, cleaning, groceries. I had barely danced since, and it had been years since I stood under any spotlight. But that night, I danced freely and with passion. My partner and I had great chemistry, and it felt amazing. After the performance, we walked off stage together, excitedly chatting and rehashing the moments we nailed. We were laughing and enjoying ourselves until someone called out, "Mr. Sullivan." I turned my head. Ethan was standing by the backstage entrance, looking straight at me. He was alone, strangely isolated. For some reason, he looked more like a bystander than the head of the company. And his eyes, there was something dark in them I couldn't quite see, but I didn't care to figure it out. I turned around and exited through the other door. After the mid-year celebration, I became a bit of a sensation within the company. A few friendly women from other departments even asked if I had a boyfriend. I told them honestly that I was divorced. They looked surprised, but quickly rallied with determination, vowing to help me find a decent man. I smiled and thanked them. Then, I received great news. A new experimental elementary school was being built in the city's development zone, and they had just posted a job listing for teachers. A week later, our company organized another charity trip to visit the Mountain Village School. I had gone once before when I first joined, so this time the team recommended me again, since they knew I had a teaching background. What I didn't expect was that Ethan came along too. The kids at the school still remembered me. "Miss Emily," they shouted as they ran up to me. I was overjoyed. I handed out snacks, taught them an English lesson, then played a game of tag with them, Mother Hen and the Hawk. I played the hen, and a male coworker played the hawk. We were sweating like crazy. Just as I was exhausted and reaching for water, Ethan, who had been speaking with the principal, walked over. "Tired? I can take over for a bit," he said to the guy who had been the hawk. The guy looked shocked but nodded quickly. Then our eyes met. I turned my head and spoke to one of the little girls behind me. "Do you want to be the mother hen?" Her eyes lit up. "Yes." "Then go ahead. Miss Emily's going to get a drink of water. I'm putting you in charge, okay? Protect them all," I said with a smile, waving at the kids before walking toward the classroom. The room was empty. I sat down. A dull ache tugged at my lower abdomen. I thought about the dates. It made sense. It was about time again. Since the miscarriage, I'd barely rested. I had gone straight into handling divorce paperwork with Ethan, without the traditional postpartum recovery period. As a result, I was left with persistent back and abdominal pain. The recent dance rehearsals had worn me out, and I had stayed up late the night before preparing for my upcoming interview at the experimental school. Then, jumping around with the kids just now had made it worse. The pain this time was sharper than usual. I didn't bring any painkillers, and I knew there was no way I could make it through the whole afternoon. So I sent a message to the guy who'd played the hawk, explaining I wasn't feeling well and asking if he could drive me back early. He was kind and understanding. Soon, he drove me back to the city hospital. As luck would have it, the problems compounded. The doctor diagnosed me with acute enteritis, and I needed IV treatment. I had no choice but to call my mom and ask her to bring my recent medical records to the hospital. She arrived quickly, busy running around, paying fees, collecting medication. I lay there on the hospital bed with my eyes closed, the IV dripping steadily. The room was noisy, as usual for a hospital. I don't know how much time passed, but when I finally opened my eyes, someone was standing beside my bed. Ethan. Zach, your coworker, told me you were at this hospital, he said. I got worried and came to check. Zach must have been the one who drove me here. That wasn't necessary, I said coolly. Mr. Sullivan? Ethan was holding my patient chart in his hand. He looked pale, almost like he was the one who was sick. When you were asleep, someone bumped the file off the table, he said. It spilled on the floor, so I picked it up. He stepped closer, eyes red, gripping the medical report tightly. His voice trembled as he asked, Did we have a child? That report was from last month, when I went to the hospital for medication to help with recovery. My medical history had been written down on it. October 26, he said with difficulty. That's the day you asked me for a divorce. Was it because we lost the baby that day? His hands were shaking. I reached out and gently took the report from him. If it had been the old me, maybe I would have broken down, full of resentment and sorrow, crying endlessly to him about how we lost our child. But now, I had nothing left to say to him. It wasn't because my heart was still and peaceful like a calm lake. It was because I didn't love him anymore. I looked straight into his eyes and said clearly, Ethan, I don't love you anymore. Just then, my parents walked in. They froze when they saw him, and Ethan, too, stood motionless, surprised. He opened his mouth and actually said, Mom, Dad. My mother's face darkened, and her emotions surged instantly. You bastard, she shouted, tears welling up in her eyes. What right do you have to call us Mom and Dad? We gave our daughter to you whole and well. What did you do to her? Her voice cracked as she yelled, How dare you show your face here? She rushed forward, ready to strike him. Get out right now. My father quickly pulled her back. Why are you stopping me? She snapped. Let go. He shook his head and said softly, There are patients everywhere. Go sit with Emily. Then he turned to Ethan and said coldly, You, come outside with me. Dad and Ethan stepped out. Not long after, we heard a commotion in the hallway. Hey, something's happened out there. I panicked and begged my mom to go check. She rushed out, but didn't return right away. Instead, the family member from the bed next to mine came back and said, Oh wow, you wouldn't believe it. There was a full-on fight just outside. My heart jumped into my throat. The woman continued. That older man, he's got to be pushing 60. He beat this younger guy so bad he couldn't even get off the floor. They almost had to call the police. Then she added, But the young man kept insisting it wasn't necessary. From her vivid description, I pieced together what my father had said during the fight. He hit Ethan while shouting, You don't get to call us Mom and Dad. I raised my daughter like a treasure in my palm. I never let her suffer even the tiniest bit. She's a good, kind girl. How dare you ruin her like this? Every time I see you, I'll beat you again. Right then, my mom came back, helping my dad along. What were you thinking? She scolded. You're not young anymore. You've got high blood pressure. What if you hurt yourself using too much strength? He hurt my daughter. It's a miracle I didn't kill him, my dad muttered. He walked over and sat beside my bed. Dad? I whispered, eyes red. He nodded and quietly held my hand for a long time. Then he said, Emily, you have to understand, no matter what, your mom and I will always be your strongest support. If you don't want to keep that job, quit it. Your mom and I have our pensions and savings. Even if you never get married or work again, we can take care of you. With us around, you never have to be afraid of anyone. I don't care if it's the king of the world, I'll stand between you and anything that hurts you. Tears finally poured down my cheeks. I collapsed into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. My dad didn't talk much, and he'd always been stubborn. We used to fight constantly during my rebellious years, but he was the man who loved me the most in the world. After I was discharged from the hospital, I stayed home and rested for 2 weeks. Ethan came by 2 more times, but of course, we didn't let him in. A few days later, the company's labor union sent over a large box of health supplements. I knew that was Ethan's doing too. Maybe it had finally hit him. Maybe he was trying to make up for the child we lost. The day before I returned to work, I received a strange text from an unknown number. Emily, don't you have any shame? You're divorced and still trying to seduce your ex? What followed was a long string of vulgar insults. I recognized the number. It was all too familiar. From the living room, my parents called me to come drink the black chicken soup they had made. I deleted the message, then immediately blocked the number. The next day at work, I found out that Christine had also come to this company. Turns out Mr. Sullivan is married now. Alina, our office gossip from the tea corner, whispered while leaning close to me. Last week, Mrs. Not Sullivan suddenly showed up at the office and brought fruit to every department, she said, lowering her voice even more. Felt like she was staking her claim. Yesterday, someone from the admin office said they heard shouting in the general manager's office, just the two of them inside. The woman kept yelling, "Why do you still care about her?" Elena munched on sunflower seeds as she gossiped, eyes twinkling with drama. And get this, apparently this Mrs. Gree Sullivan used to be the mistress. Ethan was married before. She worked in the same company as him and fought her way in. The ex-wife came to the company and caused a huge scene. It got so bad they actually fired her. But I guess this woman's got skills. The ex begged him to stay, but he still went through with the divorce. They only got married recently, I heard, and apparently he left the last company because after marrying her, there was too much negative talk and pressure. So he transferred here. She shook her head with exaggerated sadness. Men always fall for the wicked ones. I just smiled and said nothing. After work, I didn't go home right away. A woman from a neighboring department had arranged a blind date for me. The guy was picking me up downstairs. He was a university Chinese literature professor named Yao Du. But before I even reached the parking lot, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I turned around. It was Ethan. He was slightly out of breath, eyes full of concern. "You're back at work? Are you feeling better now?" I froze for a second. Before I could answer, a sharp female voice cut through the air. Then Ethan, still holding my hand, was yanked away with force. Well, if it isn't Emily," Christine said with a bright, fake smile as she clung to Ethan's arm. "Long time no see." Ethan's face turned stiff, his expression clearly unpleasant. "I heard you were sick," Christine said with deliberate sarcasm. "What's wrong? Your old trick stopped working, so now you're trying to act delicate and weak post-divorce?" "Christine." Ethan's voice hardened. "What are you talking about? Emily works for my company now. She's my employee." Christine burst into a laugh. "What a coincidence. I used to be your employee too. Out of everyone here, she's the only one who's weak, the only one who's dramatic. Don't you remember how she used to come up with all sorts of disgusting tricks to stop us from being together? Now she's just trying to get your attention again." I cut her off coldly. "Christine, watch your mouth. Ethan and I are divorced. What happens between the two of you has nothing to do with me. I don't want to see either of you. Don't bother me." I took a step closer. "But if you insist on pushing me, I don't mind reminding everyone here what the two of you did in the past. You know I'm not afraid to expose the truth." Christine froze, visibly stunned, like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Her voice pitched up. "Are you serious right now? I'm Ethan's legal wife now. Who do you think you are?" I smiled, voice ice cold. "I used to be his legal wife too. Didn't stop you from shamelessly clinging to him back then, did it?" I stepped even closer. "Wasn't it you who told me before, only weak women need marriage to keep a man? What happened, Christine? Switch places, and you forget your own words?" Her face turned ghostly pale. Just then, a calm, pleasant male voice came from behind me. "Excuse me, is there a reason you're bothering Miss Emily?" I turned. It was Yao Du, my blind date. For some reason, Ethan's face changed instantly. "Professor Du, right?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes. Is there anything else going on? Do you need help?" I shook my head and smiled. "No, I'm fine. Let's go." Behind us, Christine looked like she still wanted to say something, but Ethan held her back. I didn't respond to either of them, nor did I bother looking at their expressions. I simply got into Yao Du's car. After that melodramatic scene, I had no expectations for this date. Even though Yao Du was a great match in every way, arguably the most decent guy I'd met through these blind dates, after what he'd just witnessed, I figured any man would feel uncomfortable. This kind of thing always came down to fate. I turned to him and said sincerely, I'm really sorry you had to witness all of that today. But he didn't seem bothered at all. He smiled and said, "Actually, when the matchmaker told me about your background, I did wonder, someone like you with so much going for her, why would you be divorced? I even made up some wild guesses." He chuckled. "But now, after seeing all that, I totally get it. I mean, who would want to stay in a marriage like that?" His honesty and humor instantly eased the awkwardness I'd been carrying. "I guess I'm still not quite ready to open my heart to a new relationship," I admitted. "That's totally normal," he replied. "But don't lose faith in life. There are still good guys out there, you know?" "Like Dufu?" I teased. He laughed. "And Dufay." I couldn't help but laugh. What kind of logic is that? The mood lightened and I played along. "So all men surnamed Du are quality men?" He parked the car and turned to me, eyes sparkling. "Well, I'm a Du too." Turns out, having dinner with a literature professor is actually pretty entertaining. He could effortlessly quote lines from classic texts and turn even the driest topics into something fun. Over the next month, I kept hearing rumors at the company about Ethan and Christine. The most common one? Christine showing up almost every day to pick Ethan up after work. She was watching him like a hawk. And honestly, I could understand. She was the office mistress who climbed her way to being the wife. After finally securing her title, of course she'd want to guard her territory. One day, Mr. Sullivan left work with his secretary, just the secretary, and Christine apparently stared daggers at her the whole way. Poor girl looked like she was going to melt under that glare. Someone nearby whispered, "Doesn't she have a boyfriend already?" "Probably just a misunderstanding," another replied. Though I heard they fought again afterward, I listened quietly and honestly. I found it kind of funny. Back when I loved Ethan so deeply and refused to divorce him, they acted like they were star-crossed lovers fighting the world together. I was the wicked obstacle, the villain standing between them and their true love. The more I resisted, the harder they pushed to be together. Morals and decency be damned. And yet, now that I had finally let go, after I drained all my love and walked away, they found themselves stuck in the same miserable pattern I once lived through. Christine, who had once been so confident in love, now looked just as pathetic as I once did. I couldn't help but wonder, was this really the life they had fought so hard to create? For several months, Ethan had been sending me health supplements under the company union's name. Eventually, the truth reached Christine. One evening, I stayed late to finish some materials. As I was leaving the building, I ran into Ethan at the front entrance. He hesitated for a moment, then walked over. "Have you been doing okay?" he asked. I paused. "You can tell the union to stop sending supplements." "That wasn't the union," he admitted. "It was me. I just said it was from them because I figured you wouldn't accept it otherwise." I sighed. "Ethan, why are you doing this?" I wanted to make up for things." "If you truly feel any guilt, for me or for the child we lost, then please, stop interfering in my life." He froze. It's strange, really. He was the one who fell for someone else. He was the one who pushed for the divorce. And now he's the one desperately trying to make amends to the ex-wife he once couldn't wait to leave behind. The sharp click of high heels rang out behind us. I didn't need to turn around. I already knew who it was. Emily. Christine charged up with a smug look like she'd been waiting for this. "Don't you have any shame? You lost the baby, so what? That was ages ago." She sneered. "Serves you right. If you had just agreed to the divorce earlier, you wouldn't have even been pregnant in the first place. But hey, the divorce is done now. You're still using the baby to manipulate Ethan and make him feel guilty, huh?" Christine sneered. "Trying to play hard to get now? You really think Ethan can't see through your little mind games? That I can't?" Her voice grew sharper. "You're so vicious." As she raised her hand to strike me, I instinctively lifted my arm to block her, but someone was faster. Yaodu grabbed her wrist and said coldly, "Enough." Then smack, I slapped Christine hard across the face with the back of my hand. She stood frozen in shock. Yaodu was stunned too. "You hit me," Christine whispered, holding her cheek, staring blankly. "You hit me. How dare you?" "No reason," I said quietly. "I just felt like it. And it's not the first time either." All grace gone, Christine flew into a rage and lunged at me like a madwoman. Ethan had to quickly grab her to hold her back. She twisted in his grip, screaming hysterically. Why are you stopping me? Ethan, are you blind? He hit me. He hit me. How could you let him do that? How could you let him treat me this way? Who's your real wife, huh? I silently watched Ethan as he dragged her away, still flailing and shouting. I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of irony. She looked far more like a deranged lunatic now than I ever did back when I was begging him to stay. I turned to Yao Du, wondering if my slap had scared him off. I'm sorry you had to see that, again. But he just shook his head and gave me a quiet thumbs up. With a look of admiration, he smiled and said, honestly, that was kind of awesome. Word of that incident eventually spread. Colleagues started whispering behind my back. Even Elena came to ask, did you and Mr. Sullivan know each other before this? I thought about it, then decided not to say anything. After all, it was all in the past. The days that followed were much calmer. When the acceptance letter from the experimental elementary school arrived, I submitted my resignation to the company. Ethan called my desk shortly afterward. For the first time, I stepped into his office. He was holding my resignation letter, head lowered, voice soft. If this is because of Christine, don't worry, she won't bother you again. You don't have to quit. I shook my head. It has nothing to do with her. He looked up. Is it because of me? I met his eyes. Ethan, maybe there were things I didn't say clearly when we got divorced. He froze. But it's okay, I said calmly. Let me say them now. Throughout our entire relationship, I was always the one who gave up everything. You didn't give up anything. It all came too easily for you, so it makes sense you didn't treasure it. But do you even know what I gave up for you? Do you have any idea? Of course you don't, and you never will. Did you ever think about what it meant for me to marry you? To move to a strange city where I knew no one, just for you? You were all I had. When you said forever, I believed you. I thought you meant it. So when you broke that promise, I couldn't accept it. I fought so hard to hold on. In that long, painful tug of war between the three of us, I used up all the love and persistence I had for you. I can't even bring myself to wish you well. I don't need your guilt. I don't need your apologies. All I want is to never see either of you again. Please, stop interfering in my life. After I finished, Ethan looked down, silent for a long time. Finally, he looked up, eyes rimmed red. I understand. After leaving the company, I started my new job at the experimental school. I returned to the classroom, doing the work I loved. Every day felt full and meaningful. Yao Du and I stayed in touch as friends. We talked often and eventually discovered that our fathers had actually worked at the same place before they retired. Elena occasionally checked in with me too. According to her, Ethan stayed at the company for about 6 more months before being transferred back to headquarters. The last time I saw Ethan and Christine was in Hainan. It was winter break, and I had planned a trip there with my parents. Coincidentally, Yao Du and his parents were also going. They made that trip every year, so we decided to go together. We figured we could even put together a full table for mahjong down there. Maybe it's true what they say. Some people are just destined to cross paths in narrow alleys. I was wearing a big straw hat by the beach, buying some shell jewelry, when I saw them again, Ethan and Christine. They were clearly there on vacation too, but neither of them looked particularly happy. Why did you add him on WeChat? Ethan asked, his voice laced with frustration. Christine, can you stop being unreasonable? I needed to pay him. What's wrong with adding him for that? You don't even want to spend time with me, do you? You want to ditch me, don't you? Her voice cracked, on the verge of tears. You want to dump me the same way you dumped Emily, don't you? Ethan was silent for a while before finally replying, Emily wasn't like you. What's that supposed to mean? She snapped. What am I like, huh? Christine's voice had turned shrill, nearly hysterical. I'm telling you, Ethan, if you're thinking of getting a mistress and divorcing me like you did with her, forget it. Not happening. I didn't stick around to hear the rest. Yao Du had come over to find me. The 4 parents are hooked on coconut water, he said with a grin. They're calling you over. Not far away, under the blue sky and fluffy white clouds, my mom was waving at me excitedly, wearing oversized sunglasses and a big smile. Emily, your dad opened a huge coconut for you. Come drink it. I smiled and waved back hard. Coming.